The cool things about wintertime is that when you get to the southern Outer Banks, I'm in Atlantic Beach, but also down in Hatteras, you can see the sun set over the ocean. And in the summertime, it sets, because it's in the south, it sets over the ocean because the beach isn't directly north-south. It's the direction of the beach is goes from the northeast to the south, towards the southwest, especially in the southern Outer Banks where it cuts back. So you get to see these beautiful sunsets. There's lots of people, or were a lot of people looking at the sunset. That the way it looks like the sun is already set. That just the way the sky is this evening, it's kind of creating like a sundog above the water. I'm pretty sure it's already past sunset. Or right at sunset. That's not the actual sun, the way that it looks it's the way the sun's shining up over the horizon through the clouds, reflecting through the clouds. But enjoy every day. I had a long trip out west, drove back, was a little sick, under the weather. I got myself kind of situated, and I love you, and look at these beautiful moments here on planet Earth, and just remember that it's your turn. You're not here for anybody else. Just keep your attention on what's right. We all make mistakes. Just learn from your mistakes. Remember to treat your body and your mind well. Treat your friends well and your family well, but you got to take care of yourself first before you can really focus on other people. And that seems like a simple lesson, but try to keep it simple like that, because it gets too complicated to try and pick and choose every little detail of every little thing that has to do with life and the people around you. If you just remember, first take care of yourself in all important ways, in the best way, and not get distracted by what other people think are the right things to be doing. It's not to mean that you don't listen to what other people have done and experienced and advice that they might have. That's not the point. But you have to be discerning in that. And you learn that lesson as you get older, that the balance is between following other people and taking advice from other people versus just doing what you know is best for yourself. It's a tricky balance. But when we're young, we don't know as much in terms of, I think when you're young, your heart is in the right place. And then when people get old, a lot of times I think their heart is in the right place. And in the middle, you're just struggling with so many different aspects of life, and there's biology is involved with that, and the things that we're kind of designed to do by nature, and learning. That's one of the things that takes the most time in life, is learning how to deal socially with people. That's something that we know. We talk about math and science being so hard, but people is really hard. And technically, that's really the right meaning of politics. That's something that's also really confusing. We talk about politics today, and it almost exclusively means to people what the government's doing, or sometimes what an organization is doing. But truthfully, politics is a philosophy about how all people kind of work together in a functional way, not just in a spiritual way, or in a basic, like, social way that we like in our the way that we love one another and families exist and people get married. That's a little different aspect of things. But the politics of things is how kind of like the whole herd works together. irrespective of how close or well we know one another. As people we mostly don't know at all, but we still are somehow connected to them and working with them. And these things can get it can get tough, and so many people find it necessary, and history is replete, full of these stories of throughout history of how people have either done really good things in that manner or done really bad things in that manner. And I think sometimes we feel overwhelmed with having to exist and work within that popular way of thinking, and we don't. And when you're young and running around and just looking at the world in amazement, you need to hold on to that idea. You'll change as an individual, but you can still look back and look at yourself and how you were as a young person. And then as you tend to get older, you start to fall back into something, I think, more like that. And in the middle, you have to really discipline yourself to stay like that and not just follow the crowd. And it's so easy to get hooked into something or to get convinced that some group or some idea is right or some idea is wrong, and or that things are just so black and white that there's only one way or the other, and you can't think of your own path, your own ideas about things, which you can. And that not only can you, but people who do that do a great service to humanity when you do think for yourself, and you do, because A, your own circumstances and who you are is different than everybody else's, and B, it's important that people work through things with good judgment and a good moral compass in how you are grounded in your what's right and what's wrong, and those kinds of beliefs. And things are bigger than, they're spiritual. And a lot of that is also cultural. And then we also have rules that you'll learn of these things as you get older in school, or you can learn them now, read for yourself. It's always been a big part of philosophy, but there's also rules that we don't necessarily, we allow people to use their own moral judgment up to the extent, if we're in a free society, to where they're not harming one another, ideally. And so that's where we get into the ideas of ethics and things like that, is that everybody has a range of what they feel is right or wrong within them based on different things. And then as a society, we set standards or codes as to what is actually considered to be within, let's just say, called within fair play. But it's firstly mostly more important to determine deep within you what is right and wrong for you firstly. And I don't mean that in a way of taking advantage of other people. I think you know that. I mean it in the sense of really what's healthy. And that gets back into the idea of sin. People have kind of misconstrued, to a large extent, in popular culture anyways, what sin was really about. Sin is simply we're hurting ourselves or hurting other people, which ultimately is hurting ourselves. So it really always comes back to, in the most true sense, of whether you're hurting yourself or not. Because even when you hurt other people, you're ultimately hurting yourself. So that's really just all that is. And it's there, and God doesn't want us to hurt ourselves. He doesn't want us to hurt other people. But not hurting other people doesn't mean, it doesn't mean in the short-term sense of sacrificing your own well-being or health or beliefs. That's not what that means. Just all just a big learning lesson, and it's about setting your compass and largely being yourself and knowing that you're not here to to serve other people, because that's what'll really get you in. You know, even these people who we see them, a lot of people who, let's say, take a certain career path, a career path that exposes them to a lot of societal influence, and a lot of those people, they end up just running aground, so to speak. And even worse, they end their lives because they can't maintain their own position. They think that they are. They think that they're being unique. They think that they're being, but they're actually serving. They're actually serving the world to the extent that they end up hurting themselves. We're not. I don't think hardly any humans immune to that, but you definitely can see people who have been able to live in these worlds, like particularly in like arts and music and things like that, and still they've had their missteps. You know, they've tripped up, but they've still been able to maintain getting themselves in the right place to be the best person they can be, and still maintaining that career path without, you know, bending to other people's wills, not taking the shortcuts. There's many the greatest ones do that. They end up making their own way, and they stand apart from the people who try to take the shortcuts and that sort of thing. I love you, and I keep saying there are all these videos how important nature, the outdoor, because now this is your connection with the world and the universe. It's just you and that beautiful sunset and the ocean or the mountains or the trees or the forest. Or when you do that, that's your right to use that as your sanctuary, this great beautiful planet that we live on. And that's a great way to get yourself back to thinking straight, because none of us are, you know, immune to bad thinking and bad behavior and those things. But we got to have practices to get ourselves back on track. And the more you practice that, the less often you fall into the wrong place. I love you so much. Keep up all the great work. You're such a smart and talented young lady. I love you.